The arena was massive, an ancient stone structure that echoed with the sounds of past battles, its walls stained by years of bloodshed. The crowd, made up of alien creatures from all over the galaxy, filled the seats above, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. These were predators, hunters who had dominated countless species, who had torn apart every challenger who dared to face them. The arena was their home, their playground, their proving ground. And today, a new challenger was about to step into their world. The door at the far end of the arena slowly creaked open, and a hush fell over the crowd. Every predator in the stands turned their eyes toward the entrance. The newcomer was a human, barely 5 feet tall, with scruffy brown hair and a look of quiet resolve on his face. His name was Leo. The crowd erupted in laughter. A human? They had seen hundreds of them, weak, fragile, easily torn apart. But Leo wasn't trembling. He wasn't begging for mercy. He wasn't looking for a way out. He simply stood there, eyes fixed on the arena floor, his body poised and ready. The predators sneered, thinking him nothing more than easy prey. They knew the rules of the game. Humans were never meant to survive. The bigger, stronger predators always won. It was simple. But something in Leo's stance, something in his eyes, made them pause, if only for a moment. The silence in the arena stretched on. It was thick with tension, almost as if the very air around them was holding its breath. Leo didn't move an inch. He was small, yes, but he carried something with him that no predator had ever expected to see. He carried the unspoken strength of a fighter who wasn't afraid of death. "Another human, huh?" muttered one of the predators in the front row, his voice low and mocking. "Let's see how long this one lasts." But Leo didn't respond. He didn't even look at the creature that spoke. He wasn't there to argue, to beg, or to explain. He was there to fight, and as long as he had breath in his lungs, he would fight to the end. The gate opened wider, and from the shadows emerged the first challenger. A massive, muscular creature with bony armor plates covering its back, its face a terrifying blend of sharp teeth and glowing red eyes. It was the size of a bear, its claws long enough to rip through steel. The crowd cheered. This was no ordinary predator. This was one of the most feared creatures in the arena. Leo's chest tightened, but his expression never wavered. He had faced danger before. He had faced threats far more terrifying than any of the beasts in this arena, and he wasn't afraid. The creature growled, its sharp teeth bared. It was quick, faster than any human could have hoped to be, and its claws reached out for Leo in a blur of motion. But Leo was ready. As the creature lunged, Leo dove to the side with a speed that surprised even him. His heart pounded in his chest, his body moving on instinct, fueled by adrenaline. The predator's claws barely missed him, tearing through the air with a sound that made the crowd flinch. The predator spun around, its massive tail swishing through the air, sending a shockwave through the arena. It tried again, swiping its claws toward Leo, but this time Leo was already gone, his body moving in sync with his mind. Leo wasn't fast enough to outrun the predator, but he didn't need to outrun it. He just needed to be smarter than it. The creature was relentless, but its attacks were predictable. It swung its claws with brute force, every move aimed at overwhelming its prey. But Leo wasn't just reacting. He was thinking, analyzing, calculating the predator's next move before it even made it. He knew he couldn't win this fight with strength alone. As the predator came at him again, Leo ducked and rolled beneath its body, using the creature's size to his advantage. He grabbed a piece of sharp metal from the floor and with a swift, practiced motion, drove it into the side of the predator's ribcage. The beast howled in pain, its massive form stumbling backward. The crowd fell silent. This was no ordinary human. Leo had wounded the beast. He had struck at its weak point with precision, with the calmness of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. The predator roared in fury and turned to face him, but Leo was already on the move. He rushed forward, dodging the creature's claws again, his feet barely making contact with the ground as he weaved around the beast's attacks. With one quick strike, he drove the shard of metal deeper, this time into the creature's heart. The predator let out one final guttural cry before collapsing to the ground with a heavy thud. The arena was still. The crowd stared, mouths open, eyes wide with disbelief. For the first time in the history of the arena, a human had killed a predator. And not just any predator, one of the fiercest, most dangerous beasts they had ever seen. Leo stood over the fallen creature, his chest rising and falling with each breath. His body ached, his hands were shaking from the effort, but his eyes were clear. He had done it. He had killed the beast. But Leo wasn't done. He wasn't there to show off. He wasn't there to impress anyone. He was there to prove something to himself. To prove that even in the face of impossible odds, a human could rise to the challenge. "Is that all you've got?" Leo asked, his voice steady, louder than he expected. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't pleading. He was simply stating the truth. He had fought the impossible, and he had won. The crowd, once silent in disbelief, now began to stir. The whispers started, quiet at first, but soon the whole arena was buzzing with shock. The predators in the stands watched in stunned silence. This human was not like the others. This one had defeated one of their strongest. This one had shown them something they had never expected to see. And for the first time in the arena's history, the predators began to question everything they had believed about humanity. Leo didn't move. He didn't need to. Every predator in the room could feel it, the weight of his presence, the power in his silence. He had proven his point, and the arena had never been so quiet. The arena was heavy with the kind of silence that only existed in the presence of something extraordinary. Leo stood in the center, his chest rising and falling, his hands clenched into fists. He wasn't shaking. He wasn't nervous. He had just killed one of the fiercest predators to ever step into this arena, but his eyes were still clear, still determined. This fight was far from over. The crowd was still in shock, their eyes wide in disbelief. The predator, once a terrifying giant that had sent dozens of challengers to their deaths, now lay dead at Leo's feet. Its massive body, covered in dark scales, crumpled on the stone floor, the life drained from it in an instant. And yet Leo stood tall, unbroken. But there was no time for victory. Not yet. The door at the far side of the arena creaked open again, this time revealing something even more terrifying than the last predator. A creature entered, its form like something out of a nightmare. It was even larger than the first predator, its body covered in thick, almost impenetrable armor. Its eyes glowed a bright yellow, and its claws were long and curved, as though they had been made for tearing apart entire fleets, not just single humans. The crowd shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had seen this creature before. It was one of the ultimate challenges of the arena, a beast called the Raxar. It had never been defeated. In fact, no one had even come close. Leo's heart skipped a beat as the Raxar locked its gaze onto him. He could feel the intensity of the predator's stare, its confidence radiating from every inch of its hulking form. This wasn't a fight to test his strength. This was a fight for survival. The leader of the predators, who had watched Leo's previous victory with a mix of disbelief and admiration, leaned forward in its seat. "The human has surprised us," it muttered to itself, eyes still fixed on Leo. "But will he survive this?" Leo didn't waste time thinking about the odds. There were no ifs in his mind, only the undeniable truth that he had to keep moving forward. He had no choice. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for something much bigger, his survival, the survival of humanity's pride, and the idea that no one, not even these creatures, could break him. The Raxar let out a deafening roar, a sound that shook the very walls of the arena. It was a warning, a statement. The fight was about to begin. Without a second's hesitation, the Raxar charged, its enormous claws raised high, ready to strike. Leo's eyes tracked the movement of the beast with intense focus. He couldn't outrun it. He couldn't overpower it. His only hope was to outsmart it. The Raxar swung its claws downward, aiming for Leo's head with terrifying precision. Leo dove to the side, his heart racing as he narrowly avoided the strike. The creature's claws slashed through the stone floor with a powerful crack, sending rocks flying into the air. Leo rolled to his feet quickly, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He had dodged the first blow, but that wouldn't be enough. He had to keep moving, keep the Raxar guessing. The creature was big and slow, but every movement it made was full of power, enough to crush Leo with a single blow. Leo sprinted to the left, staying low to the ground. The Raxar turned, its eyes following him like a hawk, but it was slower now. Leo had learned something in the last few moments. The Raxar relied on its sheer strength, but it wasn't as fast as the first predator. That was his advantage. Leo picked up a jagged piece of stone from the ground, holding it tightly in his hand. It wasn't much, but it was something. He'd have to make it count. The Raxar charged again, this time aiming for Leo's torso. The creature was relentless. Leo had no choice but to jump out of the way. The beast's claws just missed his side, and Leo could feel the sharp wind from the swing against his skin. He rolled again, managing to land a few feet away, but the Raxar was already turning to face him again. It was faster than he expected. Leo's chest tightened. His body was tired, his muscles screaming with every movement. He couldn't keep dodging forever. He had to make the next strike count. There was no room for error. The Raxar lunged again, but this time Leo was ready. He grabbed a broken metal rod from the ground and swung it at the creature's arm just as it reached for him. The metal made contact with the Raxar's hardened skin, but instead of bouncing off, the rod slid into a joint in its armor. The creature screeched, recoiling in pain. For the first time, the Raxar showed weakness. The creature turned and roared, shaking its arm violently. Leo saw the opening he needed. He moved quickly, running towards the creature's back, where the armor didn't cover as well. With all his strength, Leo jumped, grabbing onto the creature's back and thrust the jagged piece of stone into the small gap between its armored plates. The Raxar howled, its massive body thrashing, but Leo held on tight, twisting the stone shard deeper into the gap. The creature staggered, its movements growing more erratic, more desperate. It reached back, trying to grab him, but Leo was already on the move. He didn't wait for the predator to regain control. He twisted the shard again and again, forcing the stone deeper. The Raxar collapsed to its knees, its glowing yellow eyes filled with pain. The beast roared one last time before falling forward, its massive body crashing to the ground with a bone-shaking thud. The arena was dead silent. Leo stood over the fallen predator, his body shaking from exhaustion, his heart still pounding in his chest. The Raxar, once the most feared creature in the arena, was now lying motionless at his feet. The human had done it. He had beaten the unbeatable. The crowd remained silent, no cheers, no jeers. They couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. A human had done the impossible. And in that silence, the predators began to feel it, the power of Leo's presence. He hadn't just fought. He hadn't just survived. He had won. For the first time, they saw the truth. This human wasn't weak. This human wasn't prey. This human had won because he had something none of them had. He had the heart of a warrior. Leo didn't smile. He didn't need to. He wasn't there for their applause. He had only one goal: to survive. And in that moment, he knew he had done more than survive. He had triumphed. The leader of the predators, who had watched every battle, every fight, stood slowly. It locked eyes with Leo, its face unreadable but its voice steady. "You have proven your worth, human," the leader said, the weight of the words sinking into the silence. "You have earned your place here, not just in this arena, but in our minds. You are no longer prey. You are something else." Leo didn't respond. He didn't need to. His actions had spoken louder than words ever could. The silence in the arena was deafening. The predators sat frozen in their seats, staring in disbelief at the fallen Raxar, the most powerful creature in the arena, now lying motionless on the stone floor. The massive beast that had once been unstoppable had been taken down by a human. One human. Leo stood tall, his body battered and bruised, his muscles aching from the intense battle, but his spirit remained unbroken. His chest heaved with exhaustion, but his eyes were sharp, focused. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't even smiling. He was simply surviving. For a long moment, no one moved. The predator leader, who had watched the entire fight, stared at Leo with a mix of anger and awe. It was impossible. It didn't make sense. Humans weren't supposed to win. They were weak, fragile. They didn't stand a chance against creatures like the Raxar, and yet this human had done it. He had defied every expectation, every law of nature. Leo wiped the blood from his face with the back of his hand and glanced at the predator leader, his eyes filled with determination. He wasn't done yet. The fight was still on. The leader finally spoke, its voice low and filled with both grudging respect and annoyance. "You've done what no other human has ever done. You've defeated our greatest warrior, but you think that changes anything?" Leo's heart pounded, but his resolve only grew stronger. He had no interest in the leader's words. He had come here to prove something, not to the predators, but to himself. He had shown them that humans weren't just prey, that they could stand tall and fight back. But he wasn't done, not yet. "You may have defeated the Raxar," the leader continued, its yellow eyes flashing. "But this arena doesn't stop with one victory. You will face many more before you can leave." Leo didn't flinch. He didn't respond. He simply stood there, letting the weight of the leader's words sink in. This wasn't just about surviving one fight. He had to keep fighting, keep proving that he was more than they thought. He was more than just a human. The leader's eyes flicked toward the other creatures in the stands. "Release the others," it ordered. At its command, another door at the far side of the arena slowly opened. From the shadows emerged not one, but two more predators. They were massive, taller than any human, their eyes glowing with hunger, their claws sharp enough to tear through steel. These were the creatures that the predators had always sent to finish the fight. They were the final line of defense, the ones who would make sure the human didn't leave alive. The crowd watched with anticipation. They had seen these creatures before. They were unstoppable. But now they were facing the human who had already defied the odds. And this time the stakes were higher. This time the fight wasn't just about survival. It was about something much greater. Leo's body screamed for rest, but he didn't let it slow him down. His muscles burned and his mind was heavy with fatigue, but he couldn't afford to stop. Not now. The first of the new predators lunged forward, its claws slicing through the air with terrifying speed. Leo barely dodged in time, rolling to the side, his heart racing. The second predator followed closely behind, its movements just as fast. It was like a storm of claws and teeth coming at him from every direction. But Leo was ready. He had learned to fight not just with his body, but with his mind. He ducked and weaved, moving in a blur, dodging the attacks with almost instinctive precision. Each predator was strong, but neither of them were faster than him. He knew they were trying to wear him down, trying to crush him with their power. But Leo had already faced worse. He wasn't going to let them win. Not now. With every dodge, every strike, Leo's body grew heavier. Sweat dripped down his face, his legs feeling like lead. But he refused to stop. He couldn't stop. The first predator struck again, this time with a quick swipe aimed at his chest. Leo rolled to the side, the predator's claws missing him by inches. He grabbed a broken piece of stone from the ground, spinning around to face the creature. The second predator was already behind him, claws raised, ready to strike. In a split second, Leo's instincts kicked in. He ducked, barely missing the second predator's claws, and lunged forward, using the stone shard to jam it into the first predator's side. The creature howled in pain, stumbling back as blood poured from the wound. But there was no time to celebrate. The second predator was already charging at him, faster than before. Leo dodged again, this time grabbing the creature's wrist and twisting it to force it to the ground. The crowd gasped as Leo used the predator's own weight against it, bringing it to its knees. He didn't hesitate. He didn't wait for the creature to recover. He thrust the shard into its throat with one quick motion. The predator collapsed, its massive form crumpling to the floor with a heavy thud. But the fight was far from over. Leo looked around, panting, sweat mixing with the blood that stained his clothes. The first predator was still alive, its claws scraping the stone as it tried to rise. The leader's voice echoed across the arena. "Finish it, human, do what you must." Leo didn't need to be told. The fight had already shown him something. He wasn't fighting for the predator's approval. He wasn't even fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for something deeper. He was fighting for his pride, for humanity. The first predator stood slowly, its body shaking, its movements sluggish from the wounds Leo had inflicted. But it wasn't ready to give up. It lunged at him once more, desperation in its every move. Leo ducked, rolling to the side and using the predator's momentum to push it to the ground. He grabbed its arm and twisted it, forcing it to the ground with one swift motion. He stood over the fallen creature, breathing heavily, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it. He had already won the battle. He had defeated the unthinkable. The arena was quiet now, the crowd stunned into silence. The predators, once so confident in their victory, now realized the truth. This human, this small, seemingly insignificant human, had done the impossible. He had survived, he had fought back, and he had won. Leo looked up at the leader, his chest heaving with each breath, but his eyes steady. He had proven his point. The fight was over. He had earned his place in the galaxy. The arena was eerily quiet, the echoes of battle fading away. Leo stood in the center, his chest heaving with each breath, his body bruised, his clothes torn. His legs were shaky from exhaustion, but his eyes were clear, unwavering. He had already fought 3 of the fiercest predators this arena had ever seen. And now there was only one left. The leader, the one who had watched it all unfold, the one who had believed this human would fall. The leader's massive form loomed above him, its sharp, glowing eyes locking onto Leo's. The weight of its stare was heavy, as if it were sizing him up, trying to figure out what made this human so different from all the others. Leo didn't flinch. He didn't look away. His heart was pounding, but there was no fear in him now, only fire. The leader's voice rumbled through the silence. "You've done the impossible, human. You've defeated every one of our strongest warriors, but you will not defeat me. I am the ultimate predator, and you are nothing." Leo's eyes narrowed. The leader had been underestimating him from the beginning. It had thought he was just a weak human, an easy target for sport, but Leo wasn't weak. He had proven that time and time again. He wasn't just a survivor, he was a fighter, and he wasn't going to stop now. "I'm not done yet," Leo said quietly, his voice firm. "I'm not going to stop until I've shown you the truth. You've underestimated me, and now you'll see what humans are really capable of." The leader's eyes flashed, its massive form rippling with power. It lunged at Leo without warning, faster than anything Leo had faced so far. Its claws were like daggers, slashing through the air with deadly precision. But Leo was ready. He didn't hesitate. He dove to the side, rolling away from the attack just in time. The leader's claws dug deep into the stone floor, leaving marks where they had struck. Leo didn't wait for it to recover. He knew that if he gave it an inch, he would be finished. His mind raced as he quickly assessed the situation. He was smaller, weaker, but he had something the leader didn't. He had his wits. He had his speed. The leader turned around, snarling, its eyes burning with fury. It charged again, this time with more aggression, determined to end it all in one blow. But Leo was already moving. He dodged once more, sidestepping the leader's massive claws, but this time he didn't stop. He ran toward the creature, using its own size against it. With every ounce of strength he could muster, Leo leapt onto the leader's back, grabbing onto its thick armored neck. The leader roared, trying to shake him off, but Leo held on, his fingers digging into the hard surface. He wasn't going to let go. He couldn't. He had already faced the worst. He couldn't lose now. The leader twisted its body, trying to dislodge him, but Leo was focused. He grabbed a jagged piece of metal from the arena floor, a sharp shard that had broken off during the earlier fights. He thrust it toward the leader's neck, aiming for the weak spot between its armored plates. The leader howled in pain as the metal pierced its skin. The creature thrashed violently, its massive body rocking with the force of its struggle. Leo hung on, his body battered and bruised, but his grip never faltering. He twisted the shard deeper, feeling the leader's strength start to wane. The predator's movements grew weaker, slower. Its roars were less fierce, more desperate. Leo could feel it. He was winning. He was wearing the leader down, using its own power against it. Finally, with a great effort, the leader collapsed to its knees, its massive claws scraping the ground. It let out one final roar, a sound of pure rage before its body went still. Leo slid off the leader's back, his chest heaving with exhaustion, but there was no triumph in his eyes, not yet. The leader was down, but he knew it wasn't over. He had beaten the impossible, but he had to be sure. He had to finish this. He approached the fallen creature cautiously, watching for any sign of movement. The leader's body twitched slightly, but it didn't rise. Leo's heart still raced, his body screaming for rest, but he didn't let his guard down. The crowd, who had been watching in stunned silence, finally erupted in cheers. But Leo didn't hear them. The only thing he could hear was the pounding of his own heart in his chest, the weight of what he had just accomplished settling over him. He had done it. He had beaten the leader. He had proven that humanity could rise above any challenge, any predator. He had shown the galaxy that no matter how strong the enemy, no matter how fierce, humans could fight back. The leader's body twitched again, and this time it moved. But it wasn't to rise, it was to bow its head in defeat. You are something else, human," the leader's voice rasped, filled with disbelief. "I underestimated you, we all did." Leo stood tall, his body still aching from the battle, but his heart strong. "I'm not just human," he said, his voice quiet but filled with resolve. "I'm a survivor." The leader didn't respond. It didn't need to. It had seen what Leo was capable of. It had seen humanity's strength firsthand. Leo took a step back, watching the fallen predator for a moment longer before turning away. The fight was over. He had won. The crowd, which had once jeered and laughed at him, now rose to their feet in silent acknowledgement. Leo hadn't just survived. He had done what no one thought possible. He had defeated the fiercest, most deadly creatures in the arena, and in doing so, he had earned their respect. The arena doors slowly began to open, and the light from the outside world began to pour in. Leo could feel the weight of the moment as he stepped toward the exit. He had done it. He had proven himself. As he walked out of the arena, his body battered, his mind exhausted, he felt something else, something more than just pride. He felt the weight of humanity's strength, the knowledge that no matter the odds, humans could rise to meet them. And as Leo disappeared into the light, he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't just a survivor. He was a symbol of hope. A reminder that no one, not even the strongest predator in the universe, could ever truly defeat the human spirit. The crowd had been silent for what felt like an eternity. The noise, the roars, the cheers, everything had been swallowed by the weight of the moment. Leo stood in the center of the arena, staring down at the leader of the predators, now lying motionless at his feet. The massive creature, once unstoppable, had fallen to a human. One human. Leo's chest heaved with each breath, his body a canvas of bruises and cuts from the battle, but his mind was clear. His focus was sharp. The fight was over, but it wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about showing the universe that humans weren't weak, that they were capable of anything, no matter how impossible it seemed. As the arena stood in silence, Leo felt the eyes of the galaxy upon him. The predators, who had once believed he was no more than prey, now saw him as something else, something they couldn't ignore. The leader of the predators, lying in defeat, slowly raised its head. Its yellow eyes locked onto Leo's, a mixture of disbelief and respect flickering in the depths of them. "You've proven your strength," the leader rasped, its voice strained. "But you think that makes you a threat? You think we'll let you leave here alive?" Leo didn't flinch. He didn't respond. He knew the fight was over in his heart, but he was far from foolish. This was a place where survival wasn't guaranteed. He had already proven that humans could win, but there was always another trial, another challenge to face. The leader, its body shaking with the effort, stood slowly, towering over Leo like a mountain. The once dominant creature now seemed smaller in comparison to the human standing before it, the predator now on the verge of collapse, its power fading. The leader raised its clawed hand, signaling for the next stage of the trial. "I gave you a chance to survive," it said, "but you've broken the rules, and for that you will pay." Leo felt the air around him grow thick with tension. His eyes darted toward the predator, clawed hand. The leader was moving to strike. His heart raced. But the lesson was clear. The fight was never really over, not until they decided it was. But Leo was done running. He was done hiding. The humans were more than what these creatures thought they were. He had come here to show them the truth, and no one would stop him now. Leo clenched his fists and steadied himself. He wasn't just standing for himself anymore. He was standing for every human who had been told they weren't enough. Every one of them who had faced impossible odds and been told they were weak. He wasn't just a survivor. He was a message. And with that thought, Leo stepped forward. The predator roared, swinging its claws toward him with a force that could shatter stone. Leo ducked just in time, narrowly missing the swipe. The beast's claws slashed the air, sending sparks flying. But Leo was already moving again, faster than the predator could follow. He rolled beneath the creature's legs, using its size to his advantage, and dashed toward the other side of the arena. His legs felt like lead, but he pushed through, focusing on one thing: survival. The leader spun around, its eyes burning with fury. It charged after him, claws outstretched, determined to tear Leo apart. But Leo wasn't going to give it the chance. The predator lunged again, but this time Leo was ready. He grabbed a piece of metal from the floor and hurled it toward the creature's face. The metal lodged into the leader's eye, and the creature howled in pain, temporarily blinded. Leo didn't hesitate. He grabbed another piece of broken stone, this one sharper than the last, and drove it into the leader's exposed side. The creature roared in agony, staggering backward, but Leo was relentless. With every move, he drove the shard deeper, weakening the leader's defenses. He could feel the predator's strength waning. It was slower now, its movements less controlled. Leo could feel it. He could see it. The leader, once so proud and strong, was crumbling. And Leo wasn't going to let it recover. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Leo pressed his attack. The predator staggered, its breath heavy, its eyes dimming. The fight was nearly over. Leo reached for the final piece of debris, a large, jagged shard of metal, sharp and deadly. With a fierce grunt, he plunged it into the leader's throat, twisting it with all his might. The creature let out one final, desperate scream before collapsing to the ground, lifeless. The arena fell completely still. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. The sound of Leo's heavy breathing echoed in the now quiet arena. He stood over the fallen leader, his body trembling with exhaustion, but his heart full of something else. He had done it, he had won. The leader's body lay sprawled on the stone floor, its once dominant form now reduced to nothing more than a defeated carcass. The predator that had ruled over this arena, that had struck fear into the hearts of every challenger, was no more. The predators in the stands, who had once mocked Leo, who had thought him weak, now watched in stunned silence. They had seen him fight with everything he had, with no weapons but his will to survive. And now they knew the truth. Leo wasn't just a survivor. He wasn't just a human in a world of monsters. He was something more. He had fought for his life and for something greater. He had fought for humanity's strength, for its refusal to back down in the face of impossible odds. The Predator leader's voice echoed, weak but still defiant. "You have proven your worth," it rasped, its eyes flickering with a mix of fear and respect. "You are no mere human, you are something more." Leo didn't speak. He didn't need to. His actions had already spoken louder than words ever could. The crowd in the stands, once filled with jeers, now watched him with newfound respect. Leo had done what no one thought possible. He had taken down the most powerful predator in the arena, and in doing so, he had proven that humans were not just prey. They were fighters, survivors. And as Leo turned to leave the arena, he didn't look back. He didn't need to. The battle was over, but the message had been sent. He wasn't just a human. He was a symbol of humanity's strength, resilience, and refusal to be broken. The leader's last words echoed in Leo's mind as he walked toward the gates. "You are not what we thought." No, Leo was something else entirely. He was proof that, no matter the odds, humans could rise to any challenge. And no one, not even the strongest predator, could ever truly defeat the human spirit. The arena had never been so quiet. The predators in the stands, once filled with jeers and mocking laughter, now sat motionless, their eyes glued to the human standing in the center. The leader, the ultimate predator, lay defeated at Leo's feet. The blood of the battle had stained the floor, but it wasn't just the blood that lingered in the air. It was the truth that humanity wasn't weak, that despite everything stacked against them, humans could fight and win. But even as Leo stood there, his chest rising and falling with every heavy breath, he knew this moment wouldn't last. The predators around him had been humiliated, and when a creature like that was humiliated, it didn't just accept defeat, it sought vengeance. Leo's hand tightened around the jagged metal shard he'd used to defeat the leader. His body was battered and sore from the fight, his muscles burning, but there was something else in his chest. A fire. A burning desire to prove something not just to the predators, but to himself. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever, and then the leader stirred. Leo's heart skipped a beat. Had it not been enough, was the leader rising again? The creature's massive body shifted, but it didn't get up. Instead, it turned its head to face Leo, its yellow eyes dim but still full of something. Not anger, something else. "Why?" The leader's voice was low, almost a whisper, but in the silence of the arena, every word was clear. "Why did you fight? Why didn't you give up like the others?" Leo didn't respond at first. The words were heavy, and he wasn't sure what the leader was asking him. The creature had never cared for why he fought. It had only wanted to see him fall. But now, after everything, it was asking questions. It was questioning itself. "I fought," Leo finally said, his voice steady but thick with emotion, "because I don't give up. And I don't believe in defeat. I'm human, and that's enough." The leader's eyes flickered, and for a moment, Leo thought he saw something like respect in those yellow depths. But just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by the coldness of a predator who had been brought low. "I've seen many humans," the leader murmured, "but none like you. You are not a man who seeks power. You seek to survive, to live. And I—" It paused, as if trying to find the words, then shook its massive head. "I don't understand." Leo's heart pounded in his chest. The leader's words were strange, not what he had expected, but it wasn't done yet. No predator ever truly accepted defeat. The leader shifted its weight, forcing itself to rise, still visibly weakened from the fight. It looked at Leo again, this time with something more than contempt. Was it admiration? No, Leo didn't believe that. A predator's respect wasn't the same as an ally's. The leader's voice rang out again, but this time it was different. There was no more anger, no more mockery. "You've earned the right to leave this arena alive. You have proven that humans are not to be underestimated." Leo stepped back, watching the creature. His mind raced with the implications of what the leader had just said. The arena was one thing, fighting for survival, but now he was being offered freedom, a way out. "Your kind has never understood the power of humanity," Leo said, his voice growing stronger despite the exhaustion weighing down on him. "We fight for each other. We fight because we can, and that's something none of you will ever understand." The leader didn't speak. Its eyes were distant, but its body stood still, as though it had nothing left to say. Leo could feel the energy of the arena shifting. He had done it. He had won not by power alone, but by something deeper. He had shown them all that humans weren't weak. And in that moment it became clear he wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He had fought for the entire species, for every person who had ever been told they were too small, too weak, too insignificant. He had fought for humanity's pride. And in doing so, he had won more than just his life. He had won respect. The predators around him, the creatures who had watched him struggle and fight, began to stir. They looked at each other, their once arrogant faces now thoughtful. For the first time, the crowd of predators saw a human who was more than just prey. They saw a warrior. Slowly, one by one, the predators began to stand. There were no more jeers, no more insults, only silence. They were acknowledging something they had never thought possible. Leo didn't need their respect. He didn't need their approval. The only thing that mattered was that he had survived, that he had fought, and that he had proven his strength. He turned to face the exit, his eyes locked on the massive gates that had brought him into the arena. As the gates slowly creaked open, a rush of light flooded into the arena, blinding him for a moment. The leader spoke one last time, its voice quiet and almost reverent. "You've changed the rules of this game, human." Leo didn't respond. He didn't need to. He stepped forward, his legs trembling with exhaustion, but his heart was steady. He wasn't running from anything anymore. He wasn't just surviving. He was walking out of that arena as a victor. The predators watched him go, the weight of his victory hanging in the air like a storm cloud. They knew that humanity was no longer just prey. They had seen it. They had felt it. Leo's footsteps echoed through the arena as he passed through the gate. And as he stepped into the light, he didn't look back. The fight had been long. The battle had been brutal, but he had won. And that was enough. The doors of the arena creaked open, and Leo stepped into the blinding light, his legs shaking with exhaustion. Every muscle in his body screamed for rest, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. His heart still raced from the battle, but it wasn't just the adrenaline that kept him moving. It was something deeper, something that had pushed him forward from the moment he first entered the arena. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for pride, for humanity's pride. And now, as the massive doors slammed shut behind him, leaving the arena behind, Leo couldn't help but feel a quiet sense of victory wash over him. He had done it. He had defeated the strongest predators, the ones who were meant to be unbeatable, and he had walked out alive. He had proven something to himself, and to the entire galaxy. But even as he walked away from the arena, the weight of what he had accomplished started to sink in. Leo knew that his fight was more than just a personal victory. It was a message that would echo through the ranks of every predator, every species that thought humans were weak. They had seen it. They had witnessed it firsthand. A human standing against impossible odds and not only surviving but defeating the greatest predators in the universe. His heart still pounded in his chest as he walked through the hallways of the arena. The echo of his footsteps was the only sound in the empty corridor. His body was covered in bruises, cuts, and scars. His muscles were sore, his movements slow. But his eyes were clear, unclouded by pain or doubt. He had won. He had done what no human had ever done before. The hallways opened into a large, high-ceilinged room. It was filled with alien creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some were watching him closely, their eyes narrowing in disbelief. Some stood silent, clearly in awe of what they had just witnessed. And then there were those who couldn't hide their disdain. They had seen the fight, they knew who had won, but they couldn't accept it. Leo didn't care about their reactions. He wasn't here for them. He wasn't here to earn their approval. "You should be dead," a deep voice suddenly spoke from the shadows. Leo turned slowly, his gaze locking onto the source of the voice. It was the leader of the predators, still looming behind a group of its followers. Its eyes, once full of fury and arrogance, now held something else. Something new. Maybe it was fear, or maybe it was respect. "You've killed our best warriors," the leader continued. "But we are not like your kind. We do not forgive. We do not forget." Leo's expression didn't change. His stance remained steady, as solid as ever. He had heard this before. He had been told countless times that he was too weak, too small, and every time he had proven them wrong. "I didn't come here to make you forgive me," Leo said, his voice calm but firm. "I came here to show you that humans can fight. We don't just roll over and die. We stand up no matter what." The leader's eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker of something in them. It wasn't anger. It was something else, something harder to read. The leader stepped forward, towering over Leo, but it didn't strike. Instead, it spoke, its voice quieter now. "Do you understand the consequences of what you've done? You've killed our strongest warriors. We will have to answer for this. And so will you." Leo didn't flinch. He knew the danger. He knew what the leader was trying to tell him, but he wasn't afraid anymore, not of them, not of anything. "I'm not afraid of you," Leo said, meeting the leader's gaze. "You can send your best warriors after me, but it won't change anything. I've already proven who we are. I've already shown you that humanity is not weak." The room was silent. The leader and all the predators in the room stood still watching him. They had never seen anything like this before. A human, standing strong with no weapons, no armor, and yet radiating a sense of power and confidence that they couldn't deny. For a long moment, the leader said nothing. Its gaze lingered on Leo, as if searching for a way to argue, to convince itself that this human had done nothing extraordinary. But deep down, it knew the truth. The truth was that Leo had defeated them. He had broken their expectations. He had proven that a human could stand toe-to-toe with the strongest, the deadliest predators in the galaxy, and win. The leader finally broke the silence, its voice low but filled with a new understanding. "Leave," it said simply. "You've earned your freedom." Leo didn't hesitate. He turned, heading toward the exit, but not before glancing back at the creatures who had once thought him nothing more than prey. They were still watching him, still processing the fact that a human had just done the impossible. He knew their thoughts were conflicted. Part of them would never accept what had happened. But another part, the part they couldn't ignore, knew the truth. Leo had shown them that humans were more than just food, more than just prey. As the doors to the arena opened, letting the light flood in, Leo stepped out into the world beyond. The sun was bright, the air fresh. The battle had ended, and now he was free. For the first time, Leo allowed himself to smile. It was a small smile, one that barely tugged at the corners of his lips. But it was enough. He had survived. He had won. He had proven something, not just for himself, but for every human who had ever been told they weren't good enough. He had changed everything. And as the doors of the arena slammed shut behind him, Leo knew that his fight was not just for his own survival. It was for the survival of every human who had ever felt small, weak, or insignificant. He had shown them all that humanity could stand tall, even in the face of the most impossible odds. He wasn't just a survivor, he was a symbol of the strength that lived in every human heart. And no one, not even the most powerful predators, could ever take that away.